Hello, and welcome to Know Before You Go, where we explore this Sunday's common readings. I'm Father Scott Steinkerchner, and here we are in lovely Fribourg, Switzerland. Well, Fribourg or Freiburg, depending, because up here we speak French up on the hillside, and down there they speak German. And it's a question of whose town is it anyway? Is this a French-speaking town or a German-speaking town? Or one town with everyone? There's discussions, of course. This ties into our readings today because we have the lovely parables of the vineyard. And of course, the vineyard speaks of Israel and Jerusalem. And this view is very reminiscent of Jerusalem. If I was on the Temple Mount looking out over the Kidron Valley, it's like this, these steep valleys and the city built on the hill here. So our first version of the parable of the vineyard comes from the prophet Isaiah. And he's in the 8th century BC, and he's talking to Israel, which is the northern kingdom. And he has this funny, let me tell you about a friend of mine. Let me sing you his song. And he sings this song of this vineyard that he planted, and he dug everything out, and he made a wine press and a watchtower, and he planted the finest grapevines. But when it came time for harvest, all he got was wild grapes. So he said, well, enough of this then. I'm going to quit digging around it. I'm going to ask the rain to quit falling on it. I'm just going to let it all go to waste if all I'm going to get is wild grapes from this. The psalm follows that up, telling us that the vineyard of the Lord is Israel. And it was a famous understanding from even in Jesus's day that the house of the Lord, the vineyard of the Lord, is Jerusalem. So Jesus is then having an argument with the Pharisees and all, and he tells them, all right, let me tell you a parable. Listen to this. Once there was a man who planted a vineyard, and he dug it out, and he planted vines and built a tower. Of course, they recognize right away he's quoting Isaiah here, and he's talking about Jerusalem. And he says, but this man then went away and he hired the vineyard out to tenants so they could grow his crops. And when it came time to grow the crops, he came back and said, well, give me my share. And they said no. So he sends multiple people. No. He finally sends his son. And they throw him out and kill him, saying, now we'll inherit it all. And Jesus says, what do you think they'll do with those wicked tenants? Well, they'll get rid of them, of course, and give it to other people. And Jesus says the same will happen to you. They know what he's talking about. They know it's a threat. But see how Jesus has really turned the thing around. In Isaiah's day, it was clear that Israel, the people, were the vines planted. The vineyard is God's, and God planted the people Israel here to bring forth fruit. And all he gets is injustice. And that's not what he wants. He wants justice. So I'll let the whole thing fall to ruin. Now, Jesus is saying, yeah, this is God's vineyard, and it isn't even your vineyard. You're not the vines. You're simply the hired help that was supposed to do something with this to bring forth a harvest of justice. And you're not. And so, God can get other tenants in this vineyard. You produce that harvest, or out with you, and we'll get new people. And in the church, that was understood as making way for the Gentiles into this vineyard that belonged to the Jews. So what are we to do with that kind of threatening but kind of promising because it made room for most of us in the church. We don't have to be Jewish to be Christian, but it's a threat to the people who were in charge, which it was meant to be. Well, today we have lots of arguments in the church. Whose church is it? Is it the bishops? Is it the laity? Is it the liberals or is it the conservatives? Does it belong to men, women, people of which country? Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, however you want to cut it up. We all have arguments about who does this belong to. And the answer of this parable is it belongs to anyone who will produce the fruit that God means it to produce. If you live as Jesus would have us live and produce a harvest of justice and righteousness and love, then this is your vineyard and you belong here. And if you don't, God can get other people. Hard hitting, but fair. God bless you this week.